Well, hmm. Hmm. All right. All right. Now, what does this button do here? Hi, this is Double Tribble. Live on Twitch on the Double Tribble channel. My name's Ron. I live in rural New Hampshire. Got forests all over the place, wild animals. I like to stream about science and technology, and lots of stuff. I guess I'm a variety streamer, or I will be when I get my affiliate. We got SUBtember coming. There's a promotion here on Twitch called SUBtember, and they've got a model where it's partially funded by subscriptions and partially funded by advertising. The platform is, and the streamers. And so in September they have a big promotion. I think it's half off or something on subs. I forget what the thing is, but so that's what we get coming up. And since I'm not an affiliate, then that means that I can't participate in SUBtember. Isn't that sad? But there is a way that I can do it. All I have to do is get my audio synced on my stream. So when people come to my stream, they don't run away and say, hey, his stream is all messed up. So let me see if I can figure out how to get my audio synced on my stream. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to talk into the mic here. Okay, so the audio is a little bit ahead, right? So I want the video to be a little bit faster. I think I got to do this. I guess I can just type it. That's a good number. All right, let's see what that does. It's still a little ahead, isn't it? Oh, just a little bit. Okay, that means I did the right thing. I moved it in the right direction. Alright. I think that did it. I don't think I need to do anything to enable that. Alright, here we go. Okay, that's really close. I think my... Yeah, that's right on. Okay, we got it. Hey, success. See? That's good. I'm glad I got that figured out. I think part of the solution there is to make sure I'm not running anything else on my computer. I've got you know, this is pretty scuff here. I've got really old stuff. I've got the computer I'm streaming on is like 12, 13 years old, and you know, the monitor here I just got at a yard sale on Saturday. You know, and my webcam I got for $30. You know, so it's not. My mic. Look at my mic stand. Look at this. This is my mic stand. It's the spring on this thing here. So, yeah, real scuff. And so my computer, I had to buy some RAM and some other stuff to get my computer to up, you know, to the point where it would stream. It has the basic it has the CPU. It has the some sort of GPU in there. I'm not even sure if it's using the GPU. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Running Linux, so that means I gotta, you know, devote a few months of my life to figure out every time I want to do something. That's how Linux works. For those of you familiar with Linux, yeah, it's not that bad. I've been running Linux exclusively for coming up on almost 20 years now, so, and you know, have some experience with BSD before that and stuff, so it's not like I'm, you know, like I'm just learning this stuff. It's just, you know, any new application, any new thing, even if you're familiar with everything else, you know, it's like learning new words or learning new whatever. So, let's see, I'm going to try my sync again since we went a few minutes. Is this in sync? Hello, 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 hello. I don't know if that's working or not. Damn. I think it is. Well, what I'm doing here is, this isn't just about me making affiliate. I put that in a title there. Maybe people will come and help me out to try to get affiliate. I'm not sure. But I think I wanted to do, I think my category was science and technology. Let me see here. Does that say science and technology? I'm not sure. Yep, I think it says that. Yeah, my sync is close enough, I guess. It might drift through out of the stream, but that's okay. All right, science and technology. Yeah, I what I wanted to do, I think tonight, was to do a little bit of playing videos and stuff like that. Jeez Louise. Okay. Okay. What that is, what you're seeing right there is me frozen with my mouth open, blabbering, but not saying anything. Isn't that interesting? That's me frozen. That's what I look like when I'm frozen. Isn't that cool? Now here's what we do. We put this thing here, we plug this in there. And that didn't work. There we go. Alright, I got it. Alright. I added a this cable here. This is a USB cable that I bought. Oh shit! I got my glasses. I bought at the dollar store. I had this webcam. The webcam came with a cable about this long. So, and I found one USB extension for it, and that still wasn't really long enough. It was inconvenient, and things were, not positioned right. So I bought this at the dollar store and added it, and it's kind of hanging there. And I was adjusting cables right before I got started. I had to switch cables around, and must have accidentally hit that, and it was just barely hanging on there, and then it went out right there in the middle of my stream. But I didn't have to restart the stream, so cool. This is the technology part about the stream, right? This is the technology part. We're doing talking about technology. Yep. Not most people don't care about that, though. I don't think you're supposed to talk about meta stuff. I don't know if people do. It used to be a big deal if like, I'm going way back, like television and stuff like that. If they showed, or even movies, even before television, that was a big deal. If they showed what it was like behind the scenes, it's like now it's all behind the scenes now, right? It's all, this is everything. You're just watching it as it happens. There is no behind the scenes. It's just, this is it. You just start the thing up and then you blabber about how it's not working. And everybody does that. I think almost all the streamers do that. Some of them don't do that. So a lot of streamers don't understand computers very well, and they just have somebody that helps them out and does this computer stuff for them. And all they do is sit in front of the mic, and they don't have to worry about it. So obviously they're not talking about it very much unless it goes bad, and then they complain, but they don't get into any details. We get into details here. So I guess T Corona Borealis hasn't popped yet. Everybody's waiting for it to pop. Hasn't popped. I went out there right before stream and looked up there, and I couldn't see it. Conditions weren't perfect, but I could see all the stars. I could find the constellation, all that pretty easily, and I didn't see anything there. I think if it would have popped, we would know, and people would be talking about it on news and all that. So I think what I'm going to do, I've been going through trying to find public domain movies and stuff like that, to play on here, because apparently, if you're on Twitch, it's not so important because it's live, but on YouTube, if you play like clips from a movie and stuff like that, like Disney's being a real pain in the ass about that. I just, I put up a review, and I just put little clips from their movie as I do the review, and they're claiming that it's a copyright violation, which it isn't. They're defaming me. It's defamation. They're saying I'm violating their copyright, and I'm not. So I said, okay, well, we'll try to find more public domain stuff. Public domain and Creative Commons. Creative Commons is that license. Is everybody familiar with how Creative Commons works? Creative Commons actually requires that there be copyrights, which is for it to work. You have to have a copyright on your stuff and keep the copyright in order to have Creative Commons license work. Because what you're doing is whoever makes the thing, the content, releases it under Creative Commons license. And all they have to do is say, you know, I'm releasing this under Creative Commons license, and put a link to the page that has the license on the Creative Commons website. And then that license has a whole bunch of legalese stuff in there that basically says that people can use it under certain conditions. But if the person, for example, if somebody made content and they said, "Oh, I'm just releasing this into the public domain," then that's it. They can't do Creative Commons anymore. It's just out there, and there is no, you know, there's no way they can do the Creative Commons because they don't have the copyright anymore. So that's how that works, kind of. I haven't actually read the whole thing. I guess I got better things to do than to read that. It seems to work. I'll let somebody else worry about that. Sometimes I do that, though. I read a lot of, get into the weeds on some of that stuff. Let me see if I've got here some stuff. Oh, since we were talking about copyright, let's see here. Here it is. Okay. Bring this up. All right. I'll play this little video. This is a video that's made by what's the name of these people? questioncopyright.org. I don't even know if they're still an org or what their status is. But they released this into with a Creative Commons license. The old one, the unported 3.0, I think is the one that they used. Which the licenses have different permissions. So like one of them will allow you to do anything with it. Basically, take sections of it and everything, and take portions of it, rearrange stuff, modify, right? Do anything you want to it, modify it. But I think you have to give credit. Yeah, you always have to give credit to who made the thing. And then whatever you make, whatever thing you make out of that content, then is also in Creative Commons too. See, so it's kind of like a chain type thing. So these guys are they're questioncopyright.org, and they're very much into just not having copyrights at all. And so they made this little video. Let me see if I can bring that up here. More challenges here to see if I can get that. I think I've got this already set up from previous times. Just gotta make it a little bit bigger here. Well, I didn't know I could do that. It's kind of cool. All right. So I made a copy of this. You can make copies of stuff. If something is freely available, this is something that the Supreme Court did a long time ago. If there's something that's freely available somewhere, that's just on TV or radio or anything, you can make a copy of it for your own personal use. Like they call it time shifting. If you want to record something and watch it later, that kind of thing. But you can't distribute it if it's copyrighted. But so I made a copy of this, but I can distribute it because it's released on the Creative Commons license. So let me bring this up here. Transition. There we go. All right. So this is the beginning of the thing, and it's kind of funny. It opens with this one, right? It opens with this, which is kind of funny. Did that work? Did you hear anything? I didn't hear anything. All right. Maybe I don't have this figured out. Pulse audio. thought this was going to work just fine here. But it's okay, audio capture. Oh, I see. Maybe I got to put that up. Let's try that. I think we got the video. The video's going out there, but the audio is not going out. Okay, well, let me troubleshoot this live. Monitor and output. Let's see if I can get it over here. Okay, so it's not even working on my own computer here, which is kind of weird. Okay, that's not plugged in. That's part of it. Okay. All right, let's see if that works. Okay, playback, those are all on. Headphones, okay. Alright, there we go. I think that's got it now. Let's put a few seconds of this here. Okay. I think that's it.
Copying is not.
Alright, so let me shut this monitor off here so we don't get echoes. And I think that can be brought up a little bit louder because it's softer than my voice, I think. It sounds like it anyway. So let's pump it up a little bit here. But we don't want it to overmodulate.
There.
Oh, it's still trying to monitor here. That's kind of weird. Turn it down. Alright, so this is my voice. 1, 2, 3.
If I copy yours, you.
That's about the same, isn't it? Yeah, that's about the same level. It actually seems kind of low. I think that's just my little computer here that I'm monitoring it on. Alright, let's play this little movie. This is kind of funny. I think it's cute. So, since we were talking about copyright, let's play this and we'll talk about it.
Copying is not theft. Stealing a thing leaves one less left. Copying it makes one thing more. That's what copying's for. Copying is not theft. If I copy yours, you have it too. One for me and one for you. That's what copies can do. If I steal your bicycle, you have to take the bus. But if I just copy it, there's one for each of us. Making more of a thing. That is what we call copying. Sharing ideas with everyone. That's why copying is fun.
So that was cute, wasn't it? That was, let's see who did I get the names here of these people who did this. Oh boy. Nina Paley. Yeah, she's the one. She put up a version of that online. Yeah, this there, Nina Paley. She put it. When she was first making, I think it was 2009 or something, or 2013, something like that. Hang on just a second. Okay. We got Mike still? Yeah, okay. All right. So, yeah, my neighbors are burning their fireplace again. Like to burn their fireplace. It's a little cold out there, but not too bad. I had my window open, blown with a fan in it, trying to cool it down in here. Actually, because I got more I have insulation and I have thermal mass in here, so it's kind of designed to keep the temperature moderate. But if you've got a house that's not insulated and all that, then you need to generate heat. Just even when it goes down, the temperature goes down a little bit outside, and you got to generate heat, to be comfortable. So. Okay, Nina Paley. So she did that. I think it was 2009, 2013, something like that. And song and animation by she did the animation, and then she sang a little song, and she posted her early version of it. It didn't have any music; just had her singing with the early version of the animation. And then and then they put the music on it and everything and did the whole thing. So that's kind of cool. Who else helped her with this? They had him on there. Nick Phillips. Okay. So he did the music. So vocals. Connie Champagne. I think it's Champagne. Engineered by Adrian Wong. Okay, so is that it? I think yeah. So that was kind of cool. That was really good animation too, It's funny, like to do something like that, do something like this, 30, 40 years ago, would take just a team of people, just tons and tons and tons of people. This woman just did this all by herself, That's pretty cool. So we were talking about copyright, so I did that. I've got, I just wanted to play that because I think it's just a cute little video. Let me see if I can find something on here that that is science stuff. I went and found a whole bunch of public domain stuff from science. Some of it's like old stuff, a long time ago, about, when they first discovered nuclear energy, and when they made the bomb and they were in the Cold War, all those things and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Let's see. This one. Word to the Wives. Yeah, that's... I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. That's not... Radio and... Oh, this one's kind of cool. This is how radio and television was. Let me see if I got that here. That's working. Okay. So, this is This is like a to try to encourage people to work in radio and television. That's what this thing's for, I think. That was done by some college or something, and you know, and it's in the public domain now, so has been for a long time. So this was 1940. So there really wasn't TV at that time. There was just radio at that time. 1940 was just radio. TV had been invented, and you know, they were kind of doing experiments with it and stuff like that, but it had not. I mean, they knew what the impact it would have. They knew it was going to be a big deal. You know, it's kind of like if you've been around a few years when the internet first came out, and people started finding out about it. They knew it was going to be a big deal. That's some people. A lot of people did. A lot of people just have no foresight at all. You know, not to say that there's anything. You know, people have different skills and abilities and all that. And some people just aren't future focused. You know. But I think most people understood the internet, and people understood television too. They understood what was that it was gonna be a big deal. And anytime there's new technology, you know, there's all kinds of stuff going on. You know, the movie people, you know, when movies came out, well, even going back to when, like in the mid 19th century, when photography became a big deal. The people who were painters and did paintings, they were like, "Oh, it's not real paintings. It's just, you know," and it's been like that forever and ever and ever. You know, ever since the Industrial Revolution, since the Renaissance. You go back to the Renaissance. You know, I could probably find examples from the Renaissance where new technologies come out, and the people who are, you know, the incumbents, the ones who are doing it the old way, say, "Oh, we don't want. It's not good enough. It's not blah blah blah." You know, and they diss it, and it becomes the new thing. You know, it becomes the new standard or whatever. So, like in the mid 19th century, it was the photography came out, and the painters said, "Oh no, it's not going to go." And then the painters actually started. If you look at Impressionism, how they draw it, they're trying to, instead of like poses and things like that, it was influenced by photography. You know, we started getting photographs of things, and photographs actually have a different image than if you're just experiencing life, right? It's different. It captures people in weird positions sometimes, and you know, and that influenced impressionism or painting in art, and influenced the impressionists, who tried to paint things that way. They tried to paint, you know, they would paint people kind of halfway off the frame, you know. You know how sometimes when you take a picture of somebody who's not framed properly, they're like halfway on the frame, some of the subjects or something. That didn't exist in painting until photography came out. And if you look at paintings, it's up until that point, as far as I know, I don't know of any examples, but the subjects in the frame are either in the frame or they're out of the frame, right? They're not like right on the edge and cut off and stuff like that. They're like carefully positioned, you know, in all the paintings. And then photographs came out, and they saw people in weird positions and cut off under the frame and all this kind of stuff. And then Impressionism copied that and started doing that because they thought, you know, they thought photography was going to take their job, and they didn't, so they were competing with it. And it happened when radio came out. That was a big deal. And sometimes like when radio came out, that, you know, that allowed, well, we had telegraph, right? That made communication very, you know, telegrams, you know, that was a big deal. That made communication much faster. Before that, they had to get on a horse and ride across the country to communicate. And then they came out with telegraph, and that made it a lot more faster. And then radio came out, and you didn't need the wires all over the place. You could just transmit it. And so all the people who worked on all the wires, they were all upset about that, right? Because they weren't maintaining the wires. And then they came out with radio, so they were worried about that. And it's just and they're always distant. There's a quote from I can't remember the guy's name. It was one of the big media guys back at the time when radio was first invented. Back in the first radio stations started broadcasting in the 20s, I think it was. And there's a quote, and he says, "What's a big deal of radio?" It's like who would want to, because radio works differently. Telegrams and telephones and all that, it's you got one person on one end and one on the other, right? That's how it worked. And radio came out, and you could broadcast. You could send it out, and then lots of different people could hear it. And the quote from this guy says, "Who would want to communicate with no one in particular?" And that's exactly what broadcasting is about. It's about just broadcast. You send it out there to no one in particular. When radio came out, that was a big deal, and that just actually changed a lot of stuff. I think it led to propaganda. The whole propaganda thing with World War II and all that. That came from radio, and the ability for evil people to get their evil out to a lot of different, to a wider audience and stuff like that, and it just caused problems. So it wasn't all good, but it was a lot of good stuff too. And then television. When television came out, they thought, oh no, television is going to replace radio. They thought. Or movie theaters, and motion picture. When motion picture came out, they thought, oh no, we're not going to have stage plays anymore. It'll just be movies. So that's the way each new thing comes out, and people get all upset about it, and the incumbents try to protect their turf, and then, there's just conflict, and then it works out that the new thing is there, but the old thing still has a smaller audience or whatever, smaller user base or whatever, but it's always still there. I think there's still cable, right? There's still cable TV, I think, and there's still broadcast. I think there's still TV stations broadcasting, right? And radio, AM. I think AM radio is still out there, isn't it? I think so. Even though we have the internet, it's still out there. So. It's just not as many people that watch it. So anyway, 1940s, they came out with the technology was there. Technology was developed in the 30s. So this is 1940, and you'll see some of the stuff in this thing. It's got these big machines and stuff like that, and and of course the cameras are big, huge things, and all this kind of stuff. I think some of the stuff they show, this is almost all about radio, just a little bit about television. But I think some of the scenes in television and the television here in this film were kind of faked or whatever, or not really, because there was no television in the 1940s. You couldn't go to the store and buy a TV. It wasn't. People didn't have TVs. There were some, test locations and things like that. It wasn't like it was out there. And then and before it could really get out there, before they could start building TVs and selling them to people, World War II started, and everything stopped. Everything that didn't have to do with the war and production and all that kind of stopped. And they did the war, and then after the war, then TV started happening. All the veterans came back from the war, and they got married and had kids, and there was like a boom, economic boom, and people started buying TVs in the 50s. Yeah, I don't think it was really, I mean, maybe some people bought it in the 40s, I don't know. But really in the 50s is when they started buying TVs. It was black and white, of course. And then in the 60s, then they got television, or color. I remember when color first started. We got a color TV in 63, I think it was, 65, somewhere in there, somewhere in the mid-60s. We got a color TV, but there were only a few. You know, most of the stations were still black and white. And I remember when they switched it. I remember when the local channel switched from black and white to color. They were trying to figure it out, and then it's like halfway through a program, all of a sudden it went, and they figured out how to get the color burst signal in there or something, and it turned to color. That's kind of a shock when I'm watching my favorite TV show, and then all of a sudden it switched from black and white to color. That was kind of weird. Yeah, a lot of stuff. All right, enough of that. I'm just kind of blabbering there. I'll play this little thing here. What this is a little promo to try to recruit people into working in the industry, working in radio and TV industry. That's what this is. It's like a recruitment video or whatever. So I'll play this and we'll see what it has to say, and then we'll comment on it.
Inside your radio, you probably have, and perhaps you've taken the tubes out to test them. The vacuum tube makes it possible to transmit sound, whether by radio, a loudspeaker system, or a motion picture projector. The tube has been responsible for the growth of radio into a business involving millions of dollars. Like any business, radio broadcasting employs a great many people in general office work, such as correspondents, stenographers, file clerks, and bookkeepers. Executives and managers of special departments, salesmen who sell time on the air to advertisers, experts who select the talent for programs, are all a necessary part of radio broadcasting. Continuity writers prepare script, and other writers handle publicity, news, and material for special and foreign programs. News commentators broadcast stories gathered from all corners of the world, often analyzing important events and expressing their own opinions regarding them. For regularly scheduled programs, the production department has a multitude of duties to perform, primarily concerned with planning and preparing the programs to go on the air. Sound effects add realism to dramatic programs and are produced by specialists in a small, although very interesting field. Actors and actresses perform for unseen audiences, and control men skillfully operate the apparatus which mixes sound effects, music, and dialogue. The best the world has to offer in music, drama, and comedy may be enjoyed in one's own home, for radio's greatest application is in broadcasting mass entertainment. Many programs are broadcast over radio networks, and telephone lines are employed to connect the studio with the various stations. As a program may originate in a studio at New York or Hollywood, the use of telephone wires makes it possible for stations thousands of miles away to broadcast the program. The master controls are operated by men who have advanced from the ranks. Their work requires perfect coordination of mind and hand, for station hookups must be made on the split second. During the short period allowed for station identification, telephone lines, which have been set up in advance, are connected to feed the program to the network stations. The maintenance of radio broadcasting equipment employs a large number of workers known as technicians. It is their job to see that the apparatus is kept in perfect working order. In the stations, we find these men at work on the amplifiers and on the power equipment. They are not developing new methods or devices, but are maintaining those which have already been developed by the engineer. Radio engineers are men technically trained in the field of electrical engineering as applied to radio and communications. They have brought about the high degree of perfection now attained both in broadcasting equipment and in radio receiving sets. This work of improvement and development is continually being carried on by the relatively small number of highly trained specialists who are radio engineers. Theirs are among the top positions in radio. These positions have been filled by men without professional training, but today there is little chance for a man to become a radio engineer without training in a first-class engineering school. Radio manufacturing in general is classified as unskilled work, as most of the jobs can be mastered in a very short time. Many women are employed assembling and inspecting radios as the work is not heavy. Ordinarily, such work does not lead to responsible positions and should be avoided unless one will be satisfied with employment in manufacturing. However, men with training are sometimes placed in the production departments of radio manufacturing plants to gain practical experience. This work serves also as a proving ground for these men, and those who qualify may advance to positions of greater responsibility. Because radio broadcasts are so popular, the public demands prompt and efficient repair service to radio sets. This has created a large field of employment. However, the supply of radio servicemen generally exceeds the need, and this makes it extremely difficult for any but the well-trained to succeed in the work. Often, the most successful radio dealers and salesmen are those who can talk with authority about the products they sell, frequently because they've had practical experience in radio repair work. The radio service field is not a good stepping stone to the radio engineer's job unless it is followed or accompanied by technical engineering training. A very interesting field of work is that of the radio operator who sends and receives messages. He must be able to send and receive the International Morse code at a specified number of words per minute. Granting of the commercial operator's license is based on a rigid government examination conducted by the Federal Communications Commission, and it must be renewed periodically. Radio operators are found on practically all large ships. They communicate with other ships and with radio stations on land. The operator at the land station sends and receives commercial messages, handles weather reports, and listens for distress signals from ships at sea. Air travel has become safe today largely because of the application of radio principles. On commercial airlines, the licensed pilots must be radio operators. In addition to flying the plane, they must report their positions and get their bearings, weather information, and landing instructions from the radio operators at the ground stations. The ground station operator does not have to be an aviator. In addition to handling messages of radio and how to make minor repairs in order to keep his station on the air, the operator's work is to maintain contact with planes in flight as well as to communicate with other airports regarding schedules, passenger reservations, and weather conditions. Men with radio training often find employment in allied lines using basic radio principles. Among these is the sound movie. Through the use of microphone, amplifier, and vacuum tube, the sound for motion pictures is photographically recorded on the edge of the film to form the soundtrack. When the soundtrack reaches the thousands of theaters, it is reproduced by means of a photoelectric cell, or electric eye, amplifiers, and a loudspeaker system. Maintenance men with fundamental knowledge of radio technique are constantly employed to keep this delicate equipment in working order. Public address systems also use some of the principles of radio. They range from the temporary and portable unit to permanent installations in large auditoriums. Many operators of portable public address systems own their own equipment, which is in demand at county fairs, sporting events, political rallies, and conventions. This type of work requires some special training, but the field is so crowded that it offers few really good jobs. The better jobs are those planning and installing the large permanent public address systems, but this work requires a thorough background in radio and acoustical engineering. Another field requiring thorough engineering training is the transmission of photographs by wire and radio. News services maintain photo transmitters at strategic points, and the newspaper subscribing to this service get the photographs over receiving instruments in their own offices. Television, the baby of the radio family, is creating openings for experienced engineers, most of whom are graduating from radio work. From the scene of action, cameramen televise events which you may see in your own home, if, of course, you have a television receiver. Television is opening up a new field, as does any new development. It is furnishing employment for men who design, operate, install, and service the transmitters and receivers. But men with radio experience, especially those who have prepared themselves through study and application, are given preference. Specialized training, study, and hard work are necessary in all phases of radio. In spite of the size and importance of the radio field, it doesn't hold great opportunity except for those who are able to secure the highly technical training which it requires. The best training is that obtained at a first-class electrical engineering school, specializing in communications engineering. If that is impossible, there are a few vocational and correspondence schools which offer excellent courses in the theory of radio. However, you should ask your school authorities to help you investigate any school, residence or correspondence, which you may plan to attend. Your high school preparation for entrance into radio work must lay a strong foundation in science and mathematics, the basis of all engineering, and especially of electrical engineering. You must, in addition, develop a high degree of coordination between hand and mind, because much of the work is very exacting in nature. Probably one of the best ways to get started is to make it a hobby and build an amateur station. This will give you the chance to put basic theory in practical operation. It will show you more quickly than anything else whether or not you can succeed in radio. Many women are employed assembling and inspecting radios as the work is not heavy. Ordinarily, such work does not lead to responsible positions and should be avoided unless one will be satisfied with employment in manufacturing. However, men with training are sometimes placed in the production departments of radio manufacturing plants to gain practical experience. This work serves also as a proving ground for these men, and those who qualify may advance regarding schedules, passenger reservations, and weather conditions. Men with radio training often find employment in allied lines using basic radio principles. Among these is the sound movie. Through the use of microphone, amplifier, and vacuum tube, the sound for motion pictures is photographically recorded on the edge of the film to form the soundtrack. When the soundtrack reaches the thousands of theaters, it is reproduced by means of a photoelectric cell, or electric eye, amplifiers, and a loudspeaker system. Maintenance and public address systems. But this work requires a thorough background in radio and acoustical engineering. Another field requiring thorough engineering training is the transmission of photographs by wire and radio. News services maintain photo transmitters at strategic points, and the newspapers subscribing to this service get the photographs over receiving instruments in their own offices. Television, the baby of the radio family, is creating openings for experienced engineers, most of whom are graduating from radio work. From the scene of action, cameramen televise events which you may see in your own home, if, of course, you have a television receiver. Television is opening up a new field, as does any new development. It is furnishing employment for men who design, operate,
and my mic off. Ah. Is that true? I have my mic. Oh my god. Alright, let's start over again. God, I can't believe I did that. Alright. That's okay. I remember what I said for the last fucking half hour. Jesus. I can't believe it. Alright. One more time. We'll do this again. Alright, I'm going to play this here. First one was just to practice. All right, so this is the section where they're talking about gender in the industry, right? This is a film, a recruitment film, trying to get people recruited into working in the radio and TV industry. And here it's very gender biased, openly gender biased here.
However, men with training are sometimes placed in the production to be satisfied with employment in manufacturing, lead to responsible positions. Many women are employed assembling and inspecting radios as the work is not heavy. Ordinarily, such work does not lead to responsible positions and should be avoided unless one will be satisfied with employment in manufacturing. However, men with training are sometimes placed in the production departments of radio manufacturing plants to gain practical experience. This work serves also as a proving ground for these men, and those who qualify may advance to positions of greater responsibility. Because radio...
Okay, so that's obviously biased, openly biased, and you know, this is 1940. That's how it was. They were biased against women, and they said right there, they said, you know, women will let you work in the factories, but we're not going to give you the good paying jobs. You're stuck in the factory for the rest of your life. That's basically what they said. And men, yeah, you can come work in the factories too, but we'll put you on the advancement track, and you can, you know, be an engineer and blah blah blah, and make a lot more money. And that's how it was for a long, long time. And it wasn't until the 1970s, yes, late 60s and 70s, we had a revolution in the United States, and it was a political and cultural revolution that changed a lot of things. And among the things that changed was attitudes, gender attitudes. And you notice there are no black people. It was all white people in this entire film. Black people were really, excluded from just about everything, and it was like that for a long time until the 60s or 70s too. And then after that point, yeah, from the 70s on, the bias was more hidden. You know, it was less blatant. I mean, even in the 70s, I think there were still some states where women could not get credit cards without their husband's permission. 1970s, you know. So it was really bad. And then today, even today, you can still see this in some movies, and some, you know, there's still a subtle bias. You know, you know, you look at the CEOs at companies. You know, it's still there are a few women, but it's still mostly men. So it's still a lot of bias there, and the same for black people too, who weren't even shown on this film. I have another film here. Maybe I'll show that. Yeah, I'll do that after this one. We'll talk a little bit about that. But anyway, so they had a dual track there. For women, they get stuck in manufacturing, and men were able to advance. So that was not good. So it's better now. And then Another interesting thing they had in here was on film. You know, it used to be that there was, right, just silent film, right, first. You guys know about silent film, right? And then late 20s, they came out with talkies, and they had to figure out a way to do that, and a way to sync it up, so that when they talked in the movies, it would match up, kind of like the way the way I do it. See, we've got that figured out now. Audio is matched up and synced now. Is it? Oh, it's a little bit late. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Look at that. That's funny. So they figured that out, right? Back in the early 20s, they figured out how to get everything in sync. And everything's been in sync ever since then. Oh my goodness. All right, let me back this off a little bit. I synced it at the beginning of the stream here, but because I'm running this other application, you know, it's being weird. So let me try this again. That's pretty close. It's still a little bit delayed. Maybe I should put a little strip on the side of my video with the video so it will be in sync. This is funny. Alright. That looked pretty good. How about on my... Does it sound when I'm talking like this? Does it make sense? I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. I think it's off by a little bit. If it's off, when in speech, if it's off by a little bit, you can kind of detect it subconsciously almost. It's in there. It's good. I got it. Okay. So anyway, did I play this here? Yeah, I'll play this here. In fact, we'll even put it up on the screen here and give you audio and everything.
Through the use of microphone guidelines using basic radio principles. Among these is the sound movie. Through the use of microphone, amplifier, and vacuum tube, the sound for motion pictures is photographically recorded on the edge of the film to form the soundtrack. When the soundtrack reaches the thousands of theaters, it is reproduced by means of a photoelectric cell, or electric eye, amplifiers, and a loudspeaker system. Maintenance men with fundamental knowledge of radio technique are constantly employed to keep this delicate equipment in working order. Public address systems also use some of the principles of radio. They range from the temporary...
So, yeah. So that's how they synced it up back then. They didn't have to adjust anything, so it was better back then than it is right now. I can't get my stream in sync, but they had it figured out how to get their movies synced up. That was kind of interesting the way they did that, though. They had the amplifiers and whatnot that would take the voice and modulate a little light, I guess, right? A little light bulb that would expose the side of the film. So whenever there was sound, then it would be darker or black or whatever, and then when there was no sound, then it wouldn't be. And then when they played it back on the projector, in the projector there'd be a little photo cell in there that could detect the light and dark and then modulate that into sound and play it back in the theater, and that's how they did it. Then later on they went to magnetic tape, and I don't remember all the different ways they did it. I mean, now it's all digital, of course. I think there may be some guys out there still who are shooting film, actual film, you know, and then digitizing it for distribution. But I think it's all digital now. I'm not sure. You know, it's better. Digital's better, right? As long as it's in sync, as long as you can get your stream synced. Well, another thing was fax machines. That was kind of cool. Let me find that.
Is the transmission of photographs by wire and radio. News services maintain photo transmitters at strategic points, and the newspaper subscribing to them.
You see that spinning thing there? The first time I ever used a fax machine was I think it was the early 80s or something like that. This was, they didn't call it fax here. This was just this. They're saying this was only used for newspapers, to get pictures transmitted to newspapers. So this is kind of how television was done, right? It's the same basic principle. You scan stuff and send it serially like that, line by line. But this is where fax machines came from. And I remember the first time I had to send a fax was, I think it was the early 80s, and the corporate lawyer had a fax machine in his office, and so I had to go in his office and try to figure out how to use the fax machine. I don't even know if I was even able to do it. But it was you know, it had this big drum. And and you stick the paper into the drum and fold it just like that, right? Just like in that picture there. And you fold the page, and it would spin like that, and a little mechanical arm would spin, and then a little mechanical arm would move across with a photo detector, you know, like that, just go across there, and then little electronics would modulate that into beeps that would be sent on the phone. You guys have heard that, seen that, right? Like a modem, right? You've heard modem sounds, right? How they used to do modems and stuff. That's how fax machine worked. And it would send the sounds through the phone, and the person on the other end would take their phone receiver headset and stick it into an audio couple thing that would take the sounds from this earpiece of the phone, play it into a microphone and then it would take the sounds and demodulate those into on and off, and then a pin, and then there would be on the receiving side there would be a drum spinning, and a pen would go like this and make the marks onto the thing. So that's how early fax machines worked. And then God, fax machines just hung on for a long time. But I remember, it was like, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I remember somebody saying that, no, we only take faxes. You have to send us a fax. It's like, this is, you know, there's already, email had already been around for decades, and people were still using fax machines. It's kind of weird. I think they thought it was more secure or something. I don't know why. You know, phones have never been secure. What else did we have? Oh, TV, right. The part where they talked about the TV here. I think this may have been faked. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at it here.
Whom are graduating from radio work. From the scene of action, cameramen televise events which you may see in your own home, if, of course, you have a television receiver. Television is opening up a new field, as does any new development. It is furnishing employment for men who design...
So that looks too good to me. You know, it's just... TV didn't look that good back then. It didn't look that good in the 50s and 60s. It didn't look that good. So I think they may have done that photographically. Because you can see little shadows up here.
And operate...
Yeah, I think that was done with a film technique. They did a matte and exposed it with film, because I don't think that's a real television set. I thought that was kind of interesting. Another thing was like Morse code. People doing Morse code. I think even today, I think if you go to get an amateur radio license, I think you need to learn Morse code. Certain classes of amateur license require that you know Morse code and are able to send it at a certain rate, even though it's all done with computers now and everything. You don't. And like DJs and talk show hosts and stuff like that. Back in the 50s, well, when radio stations first came out in the 20s or so, it was engineers, of course, just playing with their stuff. They had their stations that they used to transmit with, and then at some point they had to arbitrate, who was going to use what frequencies and all that, and the FCC, or the predecessor to the FCC, came out and they started giving out licenses to people, and they required that the people who got the license knew something about the how radios worked and the technology and stuff. Otherwise they might accidentally just spray their signal across a whole bunch of frequencies or something, interfere with people accidentally. So they had to have certain technical expertise in order to do that, to run a station. And for a long, long time, they required even the talent on the radio station, like a DJ and the talk show host and all that, had to have a radio license to be the talk show host or a DJ on a radio station. For a long time, it was like that, all the way, I think, through maybe even the 80s or 90s or something. I don't know. It was like that for a long, long time. I think that may have actually influenced the, how AM radio is, it seems like it's right wing, it's mostly, certain culture or whatever, I think that may have influenced that to some extent. Having that requirement and having people who were, from that subculture, of radio, people who use radio, and understood radio and stuff like that. And some of that may have also come from, like, this was 1940. This is right before we got into World War II. And a lot of people, most men went into service during World War II. And then when they came back after World War II in 45, 6, a lot of them were trained on radio in the service. So there was, there was a culture kind of, developed around people who used radio and stuff like that. So I think that may have influenced, even today, why AM radio is the way it is. There's still AM radio, right? There's still people out there using it, right? I think so. So that's kind of interesting. What else was there? I think that was it. Yeah, that's all I got on that, I think. There's something else I was going to say, but I don't remember what it was. Look at that thing. It's huge. Well, he's got his little his call station, WBRUK. That doesn't sound right. I wonder if that was, maybe somebody put that in there afterwards. There we go. Tubes. That's right. That's what I was going to talk about. Tubes. Did I talk about that yet? No, I didn't talk about that with my mic on anyway. Everything up until the 1960s, and even beyond that, into 1960s into 1970. Even into the 70s and stuff, TVs had tubes in them. Those are tubes They're the way they work is some of these pins down here. Let me bring this up. Oh, I thought I had that up there. Sorry. These are tubes, and the pins here would lead to the different parts of the tube here. That one has a connector on the top for higher voltages and stuff. And it's an amplifier, right? It's you're trying to take a smaller current and control a larger current. So you got a current flowing through something, and then you use a smaller current to control how much of that bigger current goes through, and that's called an amplifier. That's the definition of an amplifier, electronic amplifier. And now it's it's done in silicon now, transistors and then now chips. But it used to be done with tubes, and the way it worked is you'd have a heating element in there. They'd get it really hot, so hot that it would emit electrons, and you'd have a positive plate that the electrons would get drawn to, and then there would be a grid or something in between that would be the controlling part that would have a pin down to it, and then that pin would control how many of the electrons would be flowing across there, and that's how they got the amplification. That's how they did the amplifier. And each of these pins, a pair of them would be controlling the part that got heated up, and another one. This one is probably I think that's the anode. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's how they worked, and it's in a vacuum, right? Because electrons don't flow right good through air, right? They bump into nitrogen molecules or something, So it's got to be a vacuum tube, they call it, because it's vacuum, and it's just like one of these things. It's just like the old type of light bulb, except it was tube shaped. It's more of a tube than a light bulb, and light bulbs burn out all the time. The old-fashioned kind. The old incandescent light bulbs, they burn out all the time. They burn out, and these tubes would do that too. They would burn out quite often. So people who had TVs and radios back in the mid 20th century, most of them understood how to repair their own stuff. A lot of them did. They had TV repairmen, but I'd say half the people. They'd have somebody in the household who was expert enough to fix the thing, fix the TV or radio or whatever. And they had in supermarkets, they had a kiosk. You go in any, this is up through the 60s or even the 70s, you go into any supermarket and they would have a little kiosk there that was I think it was RCA or somebody. Let me bring my mug back up here again. They had a kiosk that was, I think it was RCA who had them, and below would be a cabinet where they had all the different part types of tubes. Each tube had a different part number, and there were just hundreds of these different part numbers of tubes, and they had them in this kiosk. And then on top of the kiosk was a tube tester. And people would, when their TV stopped working, they'd go in the back of their TV and take the back of the TV off, and there would be a little map on the inside, a piece of papers pasted to the inside of the back of the TV that showed where all the tubes were in the TV. And so they'd go and they'd unplug all of the tubes, and they'd put them in a box and go down to the grocery store, find this kiosk, and they'd plug their tubes into the tube tester, and it would show whether the tube was good or not. And they'd figure out which tube was not working, and then they'd buy a replacement and go back home and put all the tubes back into their TV, and hopefully it would work, And and it just seemed like back then. A lot of people knew how to do that stuff. People who use radio, right? The first radio operators were, engineers and stuff, and understood the techie part of it. They were all geeks, but like about half the people who had TVs even knew how to do that. At least how to take tubes out and test them, you know. But now it's just everything just kind of gets tossed, right? You buy something and it works, and then it breaks, and you throw it away and buy another one. And there are people. There's a whole movement out there. What is it? This repair movement or something? I don't know what it's called. They're trying to get manufacturers to build their stuff and release the information and stuff like that, so that people can actually repair their stuff. Yeah, it's a whole movement. In fact, I think some places they've actually tried to get laws in place to facilitate making it easier for people to fix their own stuff. You know, so you're not putting stuff into the waste stream and recycling and all that. You know, that's good. All right, so that's that video about radio and TV. That's kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find something else. Oh, that's right. I was going to do that one on bias, and it's actually kind of an interest. It's kind of a historical thing, if I could find this. But it's just the most bizarre thing. Okay, here, what it's called. So this is 1959. So this is after, Supreme Court decision requiring integration into schools. And so this company came out with this thing to try to teach young people not to be prejudiced. So there's actually bias in this film itself. I'm going to play the film and then we're going to talk about it. But it's just a content warning. It's all right. But this is a film that they have trying to teach white people in schools how not to be biased. Okay, so this is 1959.
This is the story of Bruce Jones, who walked in a shadow of hate and suspicion. The shadow of what he was because of his background, over which he had no control. This is also the story of the people who knew Bruce, or thought they did. There were many of these people, and they were different from each other in many ways.
I don't know why they let people like him go to our school anyway. And I'm not the only one. My folks don't like it a bit.
Boy, my dad made it plain I wasn't to associate with him.
How are you going to keep from doing it? Sitting in the same classrooms association, isn't it?
That's what I say. There ought to be some way to avoid it.
I wonder why the school hasn't kicked him out. I bet he makes terrible grades.
Don't get your hopes up on that score. Bruce is no dumbbell. There's nothing the school can do for as long as he makes his grades, Bruce will be with us.
But I can't understand. It's why he'd want to be with us. Wouldn't he be doing himself a big favor to quit and get a job?
Nah, who'd hire a guy like him? Besides, what can Bruce do? Well, we may as well face it. He's here and we're here, and all we can do is stay away from him as much as possible.
The people who knew Bruce agreed that it would be better to shut the door to any efforts he might make to be one of them, that singly or as a group they should avoid him. But it wasn't always possible to avoid Bruce.
Ed.
Tom, what happened?
Ed Reeves and Bruce Jones are fighting.
But Bruce would make two of Ed. What would Ed want to tackle him for?
Well, he didn't. Fred was over there. He saw it all.
Oh.
Why, this Bruce Jones was just standing on the corner, and Ed walked by, and Bruce charged at him like a bull.
Why? What for?
Oh, who knows? Gosh. Then he just went away and left him lying there. Didn't even stop to see if he was hurt or anything.
There he is. How you feel, Ed? All right, you okay?
I'm all right.
You sure?
Yeah.
What can you expect with Bruce's background? Golly, this'll get him expelled for sure. Don't you think so, Tom?
I can't see why Bruce would do a thing like that without some good reason.
I bet it's his fault.
The apparent case against Bruce Jones was a strong one. He was different from his classmates, so no matter what happened, Bruce was suspected of the worst.
Well, I could have sworn. What'd you say you lost? Oh, my green sweater. I left it in here first hour. Right over the back of this chair. Well, it's not here now. I guess I might as well check lost and found. A coat sweater? Yeah. Brand new? Yeah, did you see it? Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't know it was yours. I saw it over the arm of Bruce Jones as he walked out the door. Well, that dirty crook. We can't get away with that. Hey, come to think about it, I'll bet that's what happened to my good pen I thought I lost. Oh, they'll expel him now for sure. Hey, Joe. Yeah? See what happened?
Circumstances pointed to Bruce Jones. This is how it always seemed to work out. Bruce was in trouble. Even on the night of the class party, Bruce was to become the topic of conversation.
I don't know about you, but I think this is the best party we've ever had. No,
Boy,
kidding.
there is. Right.
Everyone's in the mood.
Good.
Maybe it's because there hasn't been anything tonight to get us out of the mood.
And what might that be?
You know what I mean. The undesirable element is missing.
It's a good thing, too.
I'm sure glad Bruce didn't come tonight. He's not like us, and he never will be.
That's right. Boy.
Well,
John, the most awful things just happened.
What is it?
I just called Mother. Oh, it's too noisy in here. I can't breathe. Come outside. You know, it's terrible. I just called Mother to tell her I'd be a little late. She heard it on the newscast. Tom and Carol have been in a wreck.
Tommy!
Oh, my gosh, well, what
They
happened?
skidded into a bridge, and the car caught on fire.
How awful.
Were they badly burned? They would have been, if it hadn't been for Bruce.
You mean Bruce Jones?
Yes, Bruce Jones. The bridge was the one near his house. Evidently, he heard the crash. He ran out and saw that two people were trapped inside, and that the car had caught fire back by the gas tank.
Oh.
Fire.
Well, did he know it was Tom and Carol?
I don't know if he recognized Tom's car or not. They say that Bruce practically tore the car door off by brute force to get Tom and Carol out. He got Carol out all right, but as he was helping Tom, the gas tank exploded. Tom wasn't hurt much, but Bruce was burned severely. I feel so sorry for Bruce.
Well, this is a switch. A week ago you were up in the air about having to go to the same school with him.
No matter what I said, I feel sorry for anybody who's being hurt, even Bruce.
Well, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and act as if this changes anything.
Now listen, Bill, you're not being fair. After all, Bruce was badly hurt. He didn't have to go into that fire. Probably didn't even know who was in it at the time.
Well, even if he did know, Bruce had little reason to risk his neck.
Especially after all the mean, prejudiced things that have been said right to his face. I'm a fine one to talk. Why, just a minute ago.
Do you suppose there's anything we can do to help?
They said that he was on the critical list. Maybe he needs blood. Do you think we ought to go to the hospital and see?
Well, I'm going back to the party.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah, let's...
I wonder if Bruce would want my blood after what I did to him. what you did to him, but he hit you, didn't he?
Yes, but you don't know the whole story. I had it coming. I used to needle him all the time. I'd sing that song so he'd be sure to hear it. You know the one I mean. Well, that day I walked by Bruce whistling it again. I guess it got under his skin and he just couldn't take it anymore.
Golly, then he didn't just jump you for no reason.
I don't think he knew what he was doing. But I did, and I told the principal the whole thing. That's the reason Bruce is only on probation. For that matter, I am too.
It's funny. I never stopped to think there could be a Bruce's side to it. I just never really thought of Bruce at all.
Whoever did. I was ready to accuse him of stealing my sweater the other day, and I would have, but when I got to the office to report him, well, there it was, where he'd turned it into the lost and found. If anybody else had been seen with it, I wouldn't have worried so much, but because it was Bruce,
Because it was Bruce who did what we've all done. We've put a brand on him for something he couldn't help.
Well, let's go see how bad it is.
This trip to the hospital could be the first step for these students at East High toward tearing down the false barriers which their own bias and prejudice have built. But will it work? Each of these people must find the answer only through re-examination of his own feelings and attitudes. For this is the problem of the individual more than of the group.
If Bruce doesn't make it, how'll I ever be able to face myself after all the things I've done to him? Things I'll never be able to apologize for.
Bill was right in a way. This doesn't really change any of the reasons why we didn't accept Bruce into our group. I just hope I can somehow work out a new set of values to judge him by in the future.
This is the fellow my folks didn't want me to have anything to do with. I wonder if what Bruce did will make any difference to them now. Will they be able to understand why I have to help him, if I can?
I can't help thinking this is the right thing to do. But it is a fast switch. Have I let sympathy head me off into something I won't be able to live up to?
Am I just reacting to an emergency? What'll it be like when the emergency is over? Bruce won't be any different, but I guess I'll have to be.
The thing is, it wasn't Bruce at all. I was the one, neatly fitting people into categories because of where they go to church, or what their fathers do, or what the color of their skin is. You hear about other people's prejudice, but you never feel guilty until you realize it's you. You're the one who's prejudiced.
What was it, after all, that made these people do the things they did? Was it a lack of understanding? Was their attitude picked up from their prejudiced parents? Or was it simply a matter of going along with the attitude of the group? What is prejudice? And why does it exist? What do you think?
So that was a film trying to get people to kids, I guess, to be less prejudiced. It's a film that apparently they showed it in schools, right, and stuff like that, because this was when they were first beginning to integrate schools. So the film itself, to me, seemed. I mean, it was almost like it was perpetuating racism a little bit. I don't know. It's very difficult to judge because, at that time, it was a completely different time. So it's hard to tell somebody who was watching that film, what they would think, what the intention of the filmmakers were. I thought it was just totally bizarre that they didn't, Here they say it says that he will not be seen or identified except in your own mind. So they show, you know, this is supposed to be a person of color, right? According to this, to the producers of this thing. And they show a guy with, you know, pants all messed up, and, you know, everybody else is dressed really nice and everything, and they got this guy dressed like this. And this is probably a white actor, right? They didn't even hire. Apparently, they didn't want to hire any black people or people of color to do this thing where they're trying to teach people not to be prejudiced, not to be biased, you know, racist. It's just the weirdest thing, you know, that they did it this way. You know, and then they kind of justified what they were doing with this little thing here, you know. So I thought that was biased on the part. You see what I'm saying? They're doing a film where they're supposed to be trying to teach people not to be biased, but then they do it in a biased way. So I don't know if that, you know, if they were doing that intentionally, or, you know, it was just that bias and racism was so ingrained that they just didn't understand they were doing it. You know, it's hard to tell. It's hard to figure out from our perspective now, looking back. You know, at that thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And they gave kind of equal, you know, same number of lines and everything between the men and the women. So that was kind of, so it wasn't gender bias that I could tell. I didn't see much indication there, of course, on the clothing, you know. But other than that, I don't see much of a gender bias. Yeah, the clothing and the hair and stuff like that, you know, women were different. Even today, right, they still do that. The men and women still dress differently and wear their hair differently and stuff. So that'll probably change this century, I think. But they show them, you know, it's gender-wise, it seems like it's not biased. And then the whole storyline, and then the guy, something horrible happens to the person of color, you know. That's biased, isn't it? To have something horrible happen to the person of color. They do that in movies. I still see movies sometimes today that do that, where they have a horrible, you know, the black person has a horrible death, or has an unusual death, or something horrible happens to them, or whatever. They still do that. So anyway, that was just kind of weird, just to kind of, you know, we had that bias that we saw in that 1940s film, that recruiting film for people to get recruited into radio and TV, gender bias. And it reminded me of this one here that I another public domain film that I had, that I wanted to see what that was like. So gender-wise, this one was okay, I guess, but it was not. It was, they were trying to teach people not to be racist, but they put racial bias in their own film. So, you know, from our perspective, I don't know how people saw that back then. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to understand how people thought in the past compared to how they think today. You know, it's really hard to, you know, and to like try to judge people and stuff. You know, you see people who are like, oh, you know, Jefferson was an asshole because, you know, blah blah blah, he had slaves, or he did this or whatever, and, you know, and so they say, oh, all his ideas must be bad, so democracy is bad because of Jefferson, because Jefferson had slaves. You know? I don't know. It's just weird that people try to judge people in history based on what's going on today. I mean, imagine, in the future, later on in this century, people are going to look at us today and say, God, they actually ate the earthlings ate each other. The human earthlings ate other earthlings. They killed them and slaughtered them and ate them. And they're gonna look at us and say, that's the horrible thing that they did, and they're gonna judge people today for that. Or all the other things that we do, death penalty, putting people in prison, some of the things that they'll judge us for, forcing people to work, forcing people to serve you, going to a restaurant and sitting down and forcing somebody else to serve you food. That's in the future, they're going to look at that and say, that's just horrible. Why would, that's just a horrible way to treat other people, to force them to do that, Lots of things like that. Manicures, pedicures, getting your hair done by having an actual person do your hair and cut it and stuff like that. It's having somebody else forcing them to do that. It's I say force. I mean, the person has to do that in order to eat, in order to make money to eat and live. So that's how people are going to judge us today. So before you go and say you're all high and mighty and you're better than the founding fathers or founders of the country or whatever, or whoever back in history, think about how the people 50 years from now or 100 years from now are going to look back at us and some of the things that we do and how primitive it is and how biased and disgusting and how terrible it is that we treat each other and blah blah blah, which seems normal to us. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's why I don't go to restaurants. I don't do that. I try to, as much as possible, avoid situations where somebody else is serving me, unless I can't help it, like if I'm sick or something, or, obviously, if I have to go in for a surgery, well, okay, I don't have much of a choice then. But ordering somebody to send you something on DoorDash, that's, you're forcing somebody else to get in a car and get some stuff and drive it to you and give it to you. Why would you do that? That's not a very nice thing to do to somebody else. Now, today that seems normal, but as I say, 50 years from now, 7,500 years from now, that's how it's going to be viewed. They're going to say, God, they actually forced other people to serve them like that, or just force people to work, period, I know a lot of you don't even understand what I'm talking about right now, but you're young. If we don't wipe out humanity between now and the end of the century, you may be alive at the end of the century or close to it, and you look back at this and you say, hey, I remember that guy that was streaming on Twitch who was talking about this. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but now I understand. Okay, enough of that. Let's see if I can find another. Let's go to a something about. This is all right. This will help cleanse our palate a little bit, I think. I haven't even watched this one before, so you'll get a react on this. I don't know what this is about, so in case it needs a content warning, I don't know. There's not going to be nudity or anything like that, but there might be some weird stuff in here. So it's 1955, and the name of this thing is called "Atomic Energy as a Force for Good." Part 1. Okay. Just something I found. It's a public domain thing. Oh, wait, is this public domain? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is this. Let me look here. Yeah, PD, okay. All right, let's bring this up.
Asleep?
Yes, fast asleep.
How do you feel about it now that we're on our way?
Oh, you're right, Dad.
Certain?
I am now. I suppose I was just keeping her in San Francisco, hoping against hope that one day the doctors would come up with some miraculous cure. But, oh, she'll love your ranch. She'll be happy there. I've got to face it, Dad. That's all we can do for her now.
You'll have to wait here a while. You better park right over there. Those are your instructions.
What's going on?
You got yourself a front seat to something you're not going to forget so quick. See that hill? You'll see it light up like you never saw light before. Any minute now, they're going to test an atomic bomb.
Dad, let's turn back.
Wouldn't get very far. Ought to go off any minute now.
But what about Vivian? She'll be terrified.
It'll be just like fireworks for her. She doesn't know what it means. We'll be the ones who'll be frightened. Well, is it like you thought it would be?
Of course it is, Grandpa, but much, much better.
Well, there's another surprise for you.
A pony. Grandpa, would you let me ride him?
Well, sure, he's yours. Can you ride?
No, Grandpa, but I can try.
Well, you go on then. No, I still can't believe it. Every time she smiles at me, I think, well, it's just impossible.
For days after the doctor told me the diagnosis, I was certain he'd call back to say he'd made a mistake, but...
Touch him gently with your heel. How long before she'll have to stay in bed?
He couldn't say exactly, but in a few months she'll be too weak to get up.
Mr. Vernon?
Yes?
My name is Ashley.
Hello.
I came down to see you last week, but they told me you were in San Francisco.
That's right. What can I do for you, Mr. Ashley?
I wonder if you'd be interested in selling your ranch.
I'm afraid you came at the wrong time. This place is giving a deal of pleasure to a little girl, and at this moment, I wouldn't dream of giving it up.
Well, it isn't a matter of giving immediate possession. We have options on the land from here all the way down to the river. But we would like a hold on your place, in case of possible expansion later on.
Expansion for what?
Well, I thought you knew. The whole town's talking of it.
Well, I just got in an hour ago.
Oh, I see. Well, I work for the Atomic Energy Commission. They're going to build a plant here.
Grandpa, am I doing all right?
Just fine. This is the little girl I was talking about.
Hello there.
Take her out again.
All right, Grandpa.
Well, since you've been away and this is all new to you, naturally you'll need some time to think it over. Maybe it'd be better if I call back again in a day or so.
I'm afraid the answer would still be the same.
I'll call anyway. Goodbye.
The atomic bomb. Isn't there enough unhappiness in the world without that? Now they want to bring it here. I'm sorry, Alice. I just don't want to be reminded of things like that. Maybe I'll go into town, see what the other fellas have to think about it.
I suppose I should bring Vivian in for a rest. But I haven't the heart to stop her when she's having so much fun.
Let her enjoy herself while she can.
In 3 months, this place will be a boom town. Sure, there'll be problems, but there'll be advantages for every one of us. How much is your place worth right now?
About 4,000.
Well, in 6 months, I'll be able to get you 12 for it. Maybe 15.
If he wants to sell. I won't be going to sell. It's my home, Harry. It's where I was born and raised. It's where my folks settled when they come out here in covered wagons. And they looked all over before they picked this as the best spot.
Well, maybe it won't help you so much, but things haven't been too good here for 2 or 3 years. Plenty of people in town that could use a little more money. Harry can tell you about that, can't you, Harry?
I'm afraid I can't. You don't run a bank without knowing the problems people have. All of us have. Money-wise, I mean. And money is what the plant's going to bring to this town.
Of course, I'm not saying that money means happiness, but it's a lot easier when you're not pinching and skimping and worrying year after year.
So it's just a question of money.
Oh, there's more to it than that. Now, you fellas got me elected mayor, and I know what this town needs and how much it needs. A new school building, for one thing. And, Doctor, how far is it to the nearest hospital?
26 miles.
And a decent water system wouldn't hurt.
Looks like we got along without him so far.
But is that any reason why our children should have to? That's why I'm glad the plant is coming here. It'll mean the best schools and hospitals and things like that. Sure, I'll hate to see the old town change just like anybody else, but I'm darn sure it'll be worth it.
Seems to me you're all ducking the real point. Now, what's this plant going to make?
Fissionable material, they call it.
No matter what they call it, it all adds up to one thing. The atomic bomb. And that's why this whole idea makes me sick.
There won't be any danger around the plant. Everything will be carefully controlled.
That's not the point. I was at Hiroshima, Doc. Maybe 8 or 9 days after the bomb was dropped. I saw what was left. So they're going to make the atomic bomb here. While I'm selling my place and leaving town. I don't want any part of it.
I can understand how he feels. After that kind of an experience, naturally he's afraid of the whole idea of the bomb.
Let us be honest. We're all afraid. We're all terrified, and so are people all over the world.
But the fact of the matter is the bomb is here. Now that it's been invented, we just can't stick our heads in the sand and pretend that it doesn't exist.
And say what you like about it. Having the bomb is pretty good insurance against an attack by an aggressor.
John, you've been very quiet. How do you feel about this?
Well, I was listening. I only heard the news about an hour ago, and I don't like to make up my mind in a hurry.
Have you made it up now?
Yes, I think I have. I agree with a lot you fellas have been talking about. But the bomb's been invented, and there's nothing we can do about that. The point is, do we want it here? Harry says the plant will bring money into the town. Well, that's fine, of course. We can all use a little more money. I know I can. Farrell says it'll give us new schools, and a hospital, and so on. But where will all this come from? From the atomic bomb. And the atomic bomb, no matter how thin you slice it, is simply a machine for killing people.
Yeah.
My folks came here about the same time yours did, Tim.
That's right.
Maybe today it isn't as big a town as they dreamed it would be. It probably isn't as rich a town. All we did was grow our crops and raise our cattle. But at least we never tried to make any money out of other people's unhappiness.
No.
Some of you are worrying that the town will change. I'm worrying about the people who live in this town. What sort of people we will be after we grow rich on the atomic bomb. With our schools and hospitals that we know one day will have to be paid for with other people's lives.
Yeah.
That's the change I'm worrying about. I don't think it's worth it.
No, I feel just fine. Really, I do.
No headaches? No dizzy spell? You must tell me the truth, you know.
If I do, you'll keep me in bed and won't let me go out and play with the pony. I'm all right. But my doll, she isn't feeling so well. She gets tired quicker than she used to.
I see. What else does your doll tell you?
Well, she's got a pain back here. And it won't go away, even when I rub it for her.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do for her. You take her out in the morning to play with the pony and everything. But afternoons, I want you both to come back to bed. How's that?
Okay.
Now, both of you get some sleep.
Okay.
God bless you, darling.
Good night, Mommy.
Well, I can't tell you anything you don't know already. It's just following its predicted course.
Will there be much pain?
Not yet. Not for some months. But the end's inevitable. Unless...
Unless what?
I suppose they talked to you about the possibilities of an operation?
They said the chance of success would be 1 in 1,000. We thought it over very carefully. It was a tough decision to make. With a gamble like that, what right did we have to cut off what little chance she has left?
Someday the chances will be better. Someday we'll have learned enough.
That'll be too late for her. Things like this in the world, and they have to invent the atomic bomb. I suppose that's why I sounded off so yesterday. Maybe I shouldn't have.
Oh, I'm glad you did. I intended coming over here tonight even if you hadn't called me about Vivian. You got me thinking. It was good for me. You know, up to now, I kept thinking that everything science did was good. My training, I suppose. Now I'm not so sure. Other fellas are thinking, too. You know, John, I think if you were to take a vote right now, the town would be against having the plant come here at all.
Are you certain?
I talked to a lot of people today.
And what are we going to do about it?
Do about it?
Well, sure. If you think a thing is wrong, then you've got to do something about it.
Well, what can we do about it?
I don't know. But that's what we're going to find out.
Well, now we've heard most everybody's point of view, and it seems to me mostly against the bomb, so if somebody will just move a motion deploring it, we'll take a vote on it and go home.
What good would that do?
Well, ease our consciences a little, I guess, and make us feel better about the whole business.
Well, that's not the point of this meeting. The point is to keep the plant from coming here.
Well, that's a kind of a tough proposition, isn't it? You just can't argue with something like the Atomic Energy Commission.
Why not? The Atomic Energy Commission is part of the government. The government is elected to work for us. Seems to me it's our duty as citizens to speak out when they do something we disagree with.
You think that'd get you anywhere?
Oh, okay. That was part one. I'm sorry, I don't have part two. I thought it would end as being kind of episodic there or something. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, so that was Atomic Energy as a Force for Good, Part 1. I don't think I don't have Part 2 on there. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm going to try something here real quick. Wait. I'm going on. I'm browsing out here on the on the internet to see if I can find Part 2. I guess if Part 2 is out there, I would have got it, but I don't know. Yeah. Stupid, right? Video. Okay, all video. Let's see. All right, I'll search everything here. Put in quotes. I'm sorry about that. We might just end up with just that first part and try to figure out what was going on. I don't know. Okay, they got Part 1 in there. There it is. Okay, we got it. Alright, this will just take a second for me to download this. There's some other ones out here too. It's kind of interesting. On atomic energy. Oh, it's a pretty big file. I want to scan it before. Okay, there's one that's 2.6 meg. Oh, that's MP3. Wait a second. 56 meg. That might work. They got all kinds of different transcodes here, so I want to find one that I can download relatively quickly. Okay, here's an MP4, 81 megabytes, so that shouldn't take too long. Okay. Alright, there we go. Okay, yeah, it'll be done in just a second here. I'll load it up. I want to actually, I'm going to look at it because this is I gotta actually scan the film first before I show it, just in case. You know how that works. All right, so the Christophers. I don't know who the Christophers are, but they presented this film, these two films here. All right, so what I'm going to do? Okay, I don't have it up right now. I'll load it up. I'll run it at 4x here, 8x or something, just to see. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm just previewing this film to make sure there's nothing in it that isn't, you know, TOS or something for Twitch. I don't expect there to be anything in here, but just in case. 13 minutes. I'm doing like 16x speed, so a few more seconds. Okay, there we go. All right, so oops. All right, so what I'll do is I'll play the end of this thing again, just so we get a feel for what was just happening, and I'll bridge it into the next part. I didn't realize this was like this. So we got another 13 minutes of this. I'm sorry. It's not even that interesting of a film, but it's content, right? It's history. We got to learn history. All right, let me play this thing here. All right, we got it up there.
We'll take a vote on it and go home.
What good would that do?
Well, ease our consciences a little, I guess, and make us feel better about the whole business.
Well, that's not the point of this meeting. The point is to keep the plant from coming here.
Well, that's a kind of a tough proposition, isn't it? You just can't argue with something like the Atomic Energy Commission.
Why not? The Atomic Energy Commission is part of the government. The government is elected to work for us. Seems to me it's our duty as citizens to speak out when they do something we disagree with.
You think that'd get you anywhere?
Not telling them how to run their business. We're not saying don't make any more bombs. All we're saying is don't bring your plant here. There must be hundreds of places where they could build. If they knew that this whole town was against it, you think they'd insist on putting it here?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move a resolution.
Go ahead, Harry.
I want to be the one to move it because at first I was all for the plant. But what I've heard has made me change my mind. I move that it is the unanimous wish of this council that the Atomic Energy Commission abandon all plans for building a plant in this township. And we call on our representative in Congress to use every endeavor to see that this is done.
Yeah.
Afraid I can't help you. They might listen to me on nuclear physics, but this is an administrative matter.
That's not the way I want you to help. I'm not going to take this up with the AEC just yet.
Even if your constituents tell you to?
I don't think a congressman's job is to do just what he's told. His job is to do what he thinks is right. I don't think this is right. And if my friends back home had known the whole picture, I don't believe they'd have drawn up this resolution. That's where I need your help.
How?
I'm flying down there tonight on the 9 o'clock plane. Can you come with me?
Well, you know I can't. I've got classes all day tomorrow.
You'll be on that plane because you believe in this as much as I do.
You talked with any of the other fellas, Congressman?
No, I came to you first because I gather you had most to do with the resolution. They also told me that you were a very stubborn man, which only means, I suppose, that when you've finally made up your mind, you stick to it.
Naturally.
But you'll agree that to make up your mind fairly, you have to know all the facts. See, I don't think you know all the facts. I used to feel the same way you do about atomic energy until Colors straightened me out. To me, it was just the bomb, and so I hated it.
Well, Mr. Colors, isn't that about what it is?
It's mostly what you read about, I grant you that. It's mostly what it's been used for so far. That's the tragedy of nuclear energy. But it had to begin at Hiroshima. No wonder the world is confused. Many of us are afraid. Mr. Vernon, think about primitive man thousands of years ago before he learned the use of fire. All fire meant to him was forest fire that might burn him to death, fire from volcanoes. He was afraid of it. He hated it. Naturally, he never thought that fire would become man's servant instead of his master.
And you think atomic energy will be?
Oh, yes. In spite of Hiroshima, if we control it rightly, as fire has to be controlled rightly, it'll be one of the greatest blessings we've ever received.
I'm not asking you to take his word for it, as you obviously have no intention of doing.
None whatsoever.
Neither did I at first. But Colors convinced me by showing me a little film they made in Washington. Now, before I act on your resolution, I'd like him to have the chance of doing the same for you fellas here. Is that fair?
Yes. That's fair enough, Congressman.
So far in this film, you've seen demonstrations of atomic energy at work as a force for good in industry and agriculture. Now we go on to a more dramatic use of this God-given force. This girl is suffering from one of mankind's most dread diseases, cancer. She has cancer of the thyroid gland. A few years ago, this would have meant her case was hopeless. Now she has a chance. That glass looks like it has plain water in it, but actually it contains hope. Hope in the form of a radioactive iodine solution. Now, most people know that iodine is used in treating thyroid, but let's explain where this radioactive business comes in. Here we see the young lady on the examination table. Suppose, instead of the radioactive solution, she'd swallowed a tiny wristwatch. Then, if you could listen closely enough, you could hear it ticking in her throat. In the same way, a little bit of atomic energy in the solution she drank is now sending out signals from her throat. These signals are being picked up by the apparatus suspended over her neck, and so provide a new and tremendously valuable guide to the doctor in his efforts to help the girl. Now take a look at this instrument. It doesn't seem very interesting, but believe it or not, you're seeing a bunch of atoms drawing their own picture. Every tick of a radioactive atom causes a pin in the instrument to jiggle as it passes over the chart. Let's see it in action. This gentleman may have cancer of the thyroid gland. He's drinking the same kind of iodine solution the young lady drank. And just as it did in her case, the iodine concentrates in the cancer tissue. Then the atoms go to work and draw their own picture. And so the doctor has a record of the exact location of the cancer, which he could obtain in no other way. Another use of atomic energy as a tracer is in brain surgery. Work is being done on the use of radiophosphorus for the detection and exact location of brain tumors. And the accuracy of the information that this new method supplies is leading to revolutionary results. Already several cases of brain tumor, hitherto considered hopeless, have been successfully operated on with the aid of this great new tool of medicine. Medical research is just one of the many uses of atomic energy as a benefit. Before we review the other beneficial uses, let's look at the many places in America where for many years thousands have worked in the field of atomic energy.
Well, you've given us plenty to think about. Of course, it's mainly in the future.
Don't you want to contribute to the future?
Now you're needling me about the resolution.
Of course I am. That's what I'm here for.
Good night, Congressman.
Good night.
Good night, Tim.
When's the next meeting of the council?
Tomorrow.
I think I'll stop over. Maybe you fellas will consider it again.
Maybe.
Radiophosphorus is a tracer. Tell me more about that.
Well, there's a surgeon in Boston using it with some kind of a Geiger counter to locate the exact spot of the brain tumor.
Has it been successful?
Of course, it's all very new, but he's already had results in cases that seem to be hopeless.
Mr. Vernon, do you have some personal interest in this?
Yes, my grandchild. The little girl you saw this afternoon. She's dying of a brain tumor.
Do you have this surgeon's address?
Sure.
Let's go to your house. We'll get him on the phone. Yes? Dr. Cooper? This is Congressman Maynard. Forgive me for calling you at this hour, but Professor Colors gave me your name, and this is pretty important. A constituent of mine, Dr. Peterson, would like to talk to you. Yes? Here he is.
Dr. Cooper, I'm calling about a young child, a patient of mine. Yes. Well, the symptoms seem to indicate growth in the lower region of the cerebellum.
He's on the phone now. Dr. Peterson's going to suggest we fly her to Boston for examination tomorrow. Of course, you realize it's only a chance.
I know. But this morning there was no chance at all.
There goes her plane.
Let's hope he finds it possible to operate.
Don't mind saying I've done a deal of praying that he will.
Well, let's get going. If you fellas agree, Maynard and Culler's going to sit in with us and listen.
Well, sure. Warms my heart to see a congressman listening for a change.
Is everybody here?
How about Doc Peterson?
He went to Boston with him. Oh, John, I thought you were going back with her.
I was, but I changed my mind. I'm going to take the other plane tonight. You know, I had some sort of share in passing this resolution, and I didn't think it was right for me to walk out on it now.
Well, let's start by hearing what John has to say.
No, Mike, this is a personal thing with me. Because just now I can only think of my own granddaughter, it isn't fair for me to try and influence you other fellas. You've got to make up your own minds on the whole picture. But I've got this to say. Because of atomic research, there's a chance now for my granddaughter. And what's even more important is a better chance for children like her in the future. That is, if we don't put obstacles in the way of atomic research. That's why, for my own part, I've got to withdraw my vote on the resolution.
I understand how you feel, Mr. Vernon. But as you say, we have to take the whole picture. Now, is it worth it?
As far as I'm concerned, that isn't the point. I voted against atomic energy because I thought it was the work of the devil. Now I know I was wrong. You see, God made the atom. I see that now. He made it just as surely as he made the hills and the sea and life itself. And God never made anything that was of itself either.
I can't argue that, Tim. But what about Hiroshima?
Oh, you can't blame the energy that God put in the atom for that. No, we've got ourselves to blame. Mankind for fighting wars and using what God has given us for destruction.
Yes, but it happened. And maybe it'll happen again, and much worse next time. So is it worth it? Men being what they are, wouldn't it really have been better if this thing hadn't been invented?
May I say something?
Go ahead.
I can only answer Mr. Benson by telling him why Cullors and I came down here yesterday. You know, I don't leave Washington every time a city council passes a resolution. But this is something about which every town in America has to think clearly. And let's hope every town in the world. Of course, you're right, Mr. Benson. The energy in the atom is the most destructive force the world has ever seen. But as Cullors has shown us, it can also be one of the greatest blessings God has ever given us. Which is it to be? Because on that depends the future of mankind. Sure, we sometimes wish it hadn't been invented. We're afraid of the responsibility because the results will be so terrible if we misuse it. But it has been invented, and we have to take the responsibility. We can't just shut our eyes to it. You, Mr. Benson, you saw the destructive side at Hiroshima. And now all of you, with the hope that's been given to John Vernon, you've seen a little of the good it can bring and its promise for the future of the world. That's how high the stakes are, for good or for evil. And that's the challenge you've accepted, to do your part in making atomic energy not a curse, but a blessing to mankind. Of course, this is just one town, and there are only a few of us in this room. But all over America, and all over the whole world, too, people must sooner or later face this same challenge. And I pray that they, too, make the right choice. Oh, we've muddled and we've made mistakes. But this time, God has entrusted us with a physical force bigger than we've ever had before. One that can destroy us or can lead us on to new horizons. And with this choice before us, God willing, we shall not fail.
I don't know who the Christophers are. Presented by the Christophers. Interesting to look that up. See who else they had in here. Directed by. Okay, so they just gave a director credit, and then the actors and the Christophers. Yeah, that's so. That was very. It's very heavy-handed, you know. It's very direct and heavy, you know. that's the way those films worked back then. So as you can see, kind of history right there. They dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and killed a bunch of people, and people felt, you know, at the end of the war, it ended the war, and everybody was, you know, cheering, you know, that they won the war, but then 10 years later, it was like, oh man, we killed all those people, you know, and they didn't even get. I mean, the news reports didn't even come out for decades later, but it's still, you know, there were write-ups and stuff like that. They didn't have any pictures of what happened, how horrible it was, and all that kind of stuff. But people were already starting to think, you know, God, that was terrible, you know, dropping that bomb. And so, yeah, they're struggling with that. Also, there was, you know, as I talked about earlier, when there's a new technology, at the time that it came out, they said, oh, the energy would be too cheap to meter. You know, it would be because, you know, it's just radioactive material just makes heat. You don't have to burn anything. You don't have to dig coal out of the ground. You don't have to pump oil out. You know, it's just right there. They thought it would be really inexpensive to make energy from an atomic plant, and of course, you know, people who mined coal and had coal plants and all that, they didn't want that. They didn't want atomic energy out there. Oil companies, you know, the whole thing, you know, so it was a big battle, you know. And it's still that way. You know, they're still trying to fight nuclear energy for some reason, you know. Anyway, that was just, I don't know, that was kind of a weird film. Wasn't too it's very direct, you know, very direct the way they do that. I don't know if I can look up who the Christophers are. I'm getting kind of late here, but let me I want to look up and see who the Christophers are, if that's even, if there is anything on that. I don't know. Let's see. Do it this way first. Whoops. No, block that. I don't want to download anything. All right, here we go. So I'm looking at the Christophers. Christian organization. Okay, that's why they were talking. They must have mentioned God about 15 times at the end of that film, didn't they? Okay, the Christophers are. Oh, I can actually bring this up on the screen here too. No, that's not going to do it. Okay, the Christophers, non-profit organization. Oh, they're still around. Okay, so they just got started in '45, and then they did this film 10 years later. The Christophers are a Christian inspirational group that was founded in 1945 by Father James Keller. And the group is derived from the Greek word Christophoros, which means Christ bearer, although the founders were Marino priests in the Roman Catholic temptation is overt, the Christophers preach a doctrine of religious tolerance, intend their publications to be generally relevant to those of all faiths. Okay. Huh. This is the founding, mission and activities. Okay, so it's a religious group who put that out. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it had that kind of feel to it, didn't it? A little bit. So that was 1950s. Yeah, that's when the Cold War was going pretty big at that time. 55, yeah. Late 50s, it was really really messed up. All right, so I don't have anything else other than that. I mean, I can go through some more films here, but it's getting kind of late. I got to make some dinner. I'm getting hungry. I appreciate everybody who was here. Lurkers are always appreciated. Thank you very much for showing up. I appreciate you being here. That's very nice of you. And on the VOD, if you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else as a recording, this was a live thing, right? On Twitch, we did it live. Lots of technical issues and stuff like that, but we appreciate you sticking through it. And if you can, I'm trying to get affiliate on Twitch. Which is more of a process than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit easier. But basically, I just need people to follow me on Twitch. So if you're if you're watching this, if you can get over to Twitch and just hit the follow on my channel, I'd appreciate it. So I can get affiliate. They're running a special deal here in September called SUBtember. It's a promotion, but it only works for people who are affiliate. Or or higher. They have levels, but I'm not affiliate yet, so if I don't want to miss out on that. So anyway, if you can get the word out, try to get folks to follow me. I need to get up to 50 followers. I think I've got 30 something now, so I need another dozen or so, dozen and a half, something like that. Followers to get 50, and then I have to get enough viewers, and it's kind of a process. Anything you can do, if you can get over there and hit the follow button, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you lurkers. That was very nice of you to lurk the stream for me. And I don't think I'm gonna raid anybody today, so I guess that's it. And I don't have my video. I gotta I had an opening here with the pictures and music and everything, and I can't do that now because of YouTube. YouTube says I'm violating some copyright somewhere, So we don't have that. At some point I'll do a new opening and closing, but I don't got that now. So it's got to be a cold open and cold close. So appreciate everybody coming. Thank you for lurking. Thank you for watching the VOD. And if you can give me a follow, I'd appreciate it. Take care. Bye.